All right, Eric, we'll look forward to that. Meanwhile, right now, we're going to bring in former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. Ambassador, thanks for joining us. I want to start here. For the first time, as you have learned, during his war on Ukraine, Putin has appointed a commander to oversee Russian troops. It's the same general who commanded Russian forces in Syria. What was your reaction when you first learned about this?
Arthel, this man is guilty of war crimes in various theaters. He's also been in charge of the Russian effort in the south around Mariupol. Mariupol is the scene of war crimes. It's very clear. So this man is already targeted as a war criminal. It is also an indication that, that President Putin realizes that the war's not going well for him. He's been run out of Kyiv. His troops have been pushed out of Ukraine, back into Belarus, back into Russia. So Putin must realize that the military is not doing very well, and the force that he has is not well prepared.
Right, but in the meantime, they've left death and destruction in their wake, and it feels like, you know, Western allies are watching Putin get away with killing and maiming and torturing innocent civilians in Ukraine and what looks like attempted genocide. So many are asking, why is Putin allowed to get away with this?
And it's exactly the right question, Arthel. He will not be able to get away with this because, as you just reported, Ukraine is likely to win this. Ukraine is going to win this battle. And when that happens, there will be consequences for all of those people in the chain of command, in the Russian chain of command, starting with the president and down to that commander we just talked about, down to commanders that were on the scene in Bucha, that are on the scene in Mariupol. They will be held to account when Ukraine wins this war, Arthel.
Meanwhile, the war continues. NATO is planning a large, long-term, if not permanent presence on Ukraine's border. But over and over, we're told no way will NATO troops fight in or over Ukraine. So how menacing are the extra NATO troops in Eastern Europe? I mean, Putin is not hamstrung or he's not holding back because of a treaty.
He obeys no treaty. He respects no agreement that he's ever signed, or that the Russians have signed, or that the Soviets have signed. They signed many treaties that guaranteed the independence and territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Look what they have done with that. So you're right, he is not obeying any of those requirements that he signed up to. And you're asking the right question. What can the West do? We are sending the troops, the 82nd. I used to be in the 82nd Airborne, and I'm glad to see them in Poland right now. And that's a demonstration that we will defend all of NATO. And we are providing the weapons and need to provide even more of the weapons that the Ukrainians need to win this war.
The question is, I know we've provided weapons, and the question is, you know, are those weapons getting there quickly enough? But maybe I'll circle back to that because I want to read a partial statement from NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg. He's saying that, quote, regardless of when, how the war in Ukraine ends, the war has already had long-term consequences for our security. NATO needs to adapt to that new reality. Ambassador, do you agree?
I do agree. I do agree, Arthel. The change in where we are now compared to where we were on February 23rd, the day before the invasion, is dramatic. We are now in a different world. Russia has put us in a different world. It is true that they had invaded Ukraine in 2014. So the Ukrainians have been fighting this war for 8 years. But that big invasion that President Putin decided to undertake on February 24th changed everything. And that means that we have to now focus on Russia, and NATO has to focus on Russia like never before. So that is a change. And Stoltenberg is exactly right. NATO has to respond, is responding. And again, the weapons that NATO provides to Ukraine, that's in NATO's interest. That's in all the members of NATO's interest for Ukraine to win this war.
Yeah, but it does seem like, you know, that he's suggesting that some different approaches need to be taken as a sort of a Monday morning quarterbacking. So we will watch for that. Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor, Always lovely to have you on. I really appreciate your perspective, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you, Arthur.